Yes. You know, when you get older.
Now 6 o'clock, is everybody ready?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, 6 o'clock. I call this meeting order. That motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, I stand say pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice. Okay. All right, now we have time for public comment. Maybe public comment come up. Online, I'm ready. Good evening, and thank you for letting me speak this evening before the board. I watched your meeting last week, and what I saw during the vote for Jacqueline's liquor license not only saddened me, it angered me, and most importantly, it scared me to death. I have been involved in theater since I was a 7th grader in Ohio. What I saw last week as an actor, supporter, and fan of community theater and the arts shook me to the core. And I felt the need to speak out. Are you coming after the theater this week? When you, Mr. Holmes, voted no and expressed your personal beliefs, I saw everything I love about the theater and the arts completely being flushed down the drain. Your vote was based solely on the fact that men dressed as women performed at Jacqueline's. Well, Mr. Holmes, men have been dressing as women in theater since Shakespeare. But more importantly, men have been dressing as women for years at Southwest Iowa Theater Group in Shenandoah, the longest running theater in Iowa for decades. The entire Tuna series is 3 shows based on 2 men playing multiple roles, including women throughout the show. A funny thing happened on the way to the Forum, which is a classic musical. Includes the main character dressing as a woman to hide from his tormentor. A recent production, A Farce of Habit, included a local school board member dressed in a nun's habit. And a murder mystery classic, Death Trap by Ira Levin, closes with the 2 main male characters kissing, showing their obvious gay relationship. The latest blockbuster at the theater was Grease, which closed this weekend. A brilliant show with music that almost everyone in this room can probably sing along with. It portrays high school students smoking, talking about sex, and possibly a pregnancy. These are all shows that were hits based on their entertainment only. Ladies and gentlemen, local drag queen shows are sold for their entertainment value. End of story. The local entertainers in these shows are local residents of Southwest Iowa that have one passion: entertaining their audience. And you buying into a national conspiracy that all drag queens are pedophiles, drug dealers, and groomers are way out of line. These people work and live here in Southwest Iowa. They shop in our stores and they eat in our restaurants. and have nothing in mind other than entertainment. When you bring your own personal bent moral compass into decisions like this, you run the risk of actors like me having my passion destroyed by your moral superiority. Now, Jackie and Matt McLaren are local business owners that opened a business during COVID and survived. They simply worked their butts off with a beautiful patio and open air music venue that serves wine, beer, soft drinks, and the best charcuterie boards in 10 counties. All they were doing is surviving. Now, Matt's family has owned this family farm since 1846 on the south side of Shenandoah in Page County. Matt and Jacqueline are exceptional business owners in Southwest Iowa with great hearts and a huge following that has developed through the worst of times. And you, Mr. Holmes, single-handedly in one vote almost destroyed their business by allowing your moral compass to get in the way of what was right. These business owners deserve much, much more. Now, according to the Iowa liquor license requirements, and I quote, to obtain a license, an applicant must demonstrate good moral character. In Iowa, an applicant is considered to be of good moral character if he or she meets the following criteria. Number one, a U.S. citizen and an Iowa resident or incorporated to do business in the state. The corporation must be registered and in good standing with the Iowa Secretary of State's office. Number two, have no felony convictions. If there's a felony conviction that is more than 5 years old and the applicant's right of citizenship have been restored, that applicant is still eligible to have a license. Number three, has not had any financial interest in a license that was revoked during the past 2 years. And number four, has financial standing and good reputation indicating that the applicant will comply with all laws and rules governing the license. I bid you to ask any local enforcement officer in Shenandoah or Page County if there has been any issues with them and their license. None of these requirements include satisfying Mr. Holmes' moral compass. Nowhere in these requirements does it state that they must meet the stringent requirements of Mr. Holmes' moral compass. And your vote last week, Mr. Holmes, was absolutely wrong by Iowa law and should be immediately rescinded. Now, my final comment are for both you, Mr. Holmes, and you, Mr. Mayor. It is not necessary for you to announce, proclaim, and testify your Christianity at every turn of any discussion inside these hallowed walls of Page County Courthouse. I have sang in the church choirs of every community I have ever lived in since I was a sixth grader. I'm a Christian and my father was a Methodist minister here in Southwest Iowa. It infuriates me, and I know it makes my father turn in his grave when anyone feels the need to proclaim their Christianity simply to elevate themselves further up their own pedestal. People like the two of you are increasingly using Christianity as a political tool, and I, for one, want you to stop using Jesus Christ as a marketing pawn. It needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. Good golly, this is Southwest Iowa. Thank you. Okay. Anybody else have a comment?
Ladies and gentlemen of the Page County Supervisors Board, I'm here to address what I found a startling situation that took place during your meeting on the 1st of June.
Could you state your name, please?
I'm sorry. My name is Ann Dalton Taylor.
Thank you.
Yeah. During which your own religious views were spoken about when it came to whether or not an establishment's liquor license would be approved. There seemed to be some confusion as to which constituted good moral character as far as liquor licenses in the state of Iowa was concerned. At no point did anybody take a minute just to Google what constitutes good moral character, which was just read to you. So I will not. If you had, you would have found that there is a list. None of the items on that list that mention that the applicant needs to live, love, pray, or play the same way that those with the power to approve their liquor license does. or do. The reason that those things aren't mentioned is because that is not the way freedom works. The very idea that a person in a position of power would use that position to try to intimidate an establishment and those like it into falling in line with your personal perspective of Christian beliefs is abhorrent. Drag is a form of entertainment. It isn't comparable to a script show. The performers have so much tape, glue, binders, and everything short of baler wire holding them into their characters' shape. It takes hours to get into a costume. There is no way any of them is going to take any of that off. As far as risque, I've seen more skin at prom walk-ups. This isn't about drag, it's about power, and it's about prejudice. Corporal Max Slinger, Mrs. Doubtfire, Victor Victoria, the producers, Big Mama's House, Mulan. Hairspray, and many more movies and shows have entertained us for decades. At Williams Shakespeare's Globe Theater, all of the actors are men. Romeo and Juliet, both dudes. But today, a man in a dress, plucked, tucked, taped, and shined with better legs than most of us in this room, and charisma to match blurs your line of what's right and wrong. I am asking you to truly look at what it is that you don't like and why. Remember, we live in a country where freedom should reign supreme. Freedom to live, love, pray, and play the way we want to without judgment. Remember that your beliefs are not meant to be shoved down the throats of those who live in the county that you represent. I firmly believe that the minute you go so far left or so far right that you lose sight of the center, you become part of the problem, not the solution. That's all.
Anybody else? Comment?
Me, Brad Richards, Jacob. Mr. Mayor, you and I have never met. I know Judy and I know Jacob, first name basis. But I want to thank Jacob and you, Mr. Mayor, for causing me to be here. A couple things, your Facebook thing just set me off way wrong. Jacob, I don't know why you seem to think that you are the only one that has the right to decide what the minutes say or who is going to talk to the media or whatever. Mr. Mayor said it was only you and you made a proposal that will only talk to the media. And I'm looking at all three, maybe not elected, but clearly appointed members of the Board of Supervisors of Page County that represent me. I didn't vote for you. In no small part because you and I have clearly different views. We've known that, we've talked about it, we've argued it in the church basement. So we know each other fairly well, I can say that. Judy, I've known you since I moved here. Mr. Mayor, I hope to get to know you more. I'm not sure that you're gonna like to get to know me more. I am going to be a fixture here because of you and you. And I just want you to know that even though I didn't vote for you, you represent me. There's nothing in the rule that says, because I didn't vote for you, that you don't represent me. You are two of the Board of Supervisors that take care of my needs, my family's needs, my grandkids' needs. And I'm gonna hold you to that. Not just for those that voted for you or that have the same similar morals and values. That didn't stop me from not talking to you for all those years. We had differences, we talked about them, we went about our merry way, and then the very next Sunday, there we were shaking hands and talking about the things that needed to be talked about, especially those wonderful kids of yours, which I miss. I miss seeing them. But I just want you to thank you and you for me being here, because that's the reason. I read the minutes. The Facebook thing was just too much. So thank you for letting me speak, and you'll be seeing more of me.
Okay. And else, comment? Online, anybody? there's no more, then we'll head on to the agenda. First up, we have JD engineer update.
Good evening, JD King, Page County Engineer. Fine day in Page County. Be fine here if the rain was spread out a little bit more. But we take what we get. The update was sent out Monday evening. Blades are, of course, we're on 410, so this is the last day that they were working. Blades were out in the district. We hauled rock from Senate and Quarry this week. We're brush mowing down on J64. We're not mowing shoulders on the pavements now, but I anticipate pretty soon starting mowing the ground. Bike crews working, and the spray patching outfit was on the west side of the county on Sleepy Hollow and some spall on G14. And we're having some trouble with D Avenue. We're getting ready to do a profile adjustment on the J Road intersection there at the east, where it curves around to the south and hits Willow, where 100th Street curves around and turns into Willow Avenue. We're going to adjust the profile so it doesn't dive off if you go straight east. That'll preserve the seal coat better. Let's put a platform in there to ease that transition. We're working the shop was normal. There was some tire work, prepping spares so that when there's flats on the trucks, they don't have to break it down and repair it. They just swap wheels and tires. The John Deere motor grader was in with some shims. We have swapped the boom off of the cat tractor and put on the side mowers. And I didn't hear whether number 8 made it in to the top or not. The John Deere skid steer that was ordered several months ago is in at the local dealer. They're prepping it now. We should pick that up next week. It'll be in time for this fiscal year. Bridge work continues in the county. We've poured all the posts on the open rail on the 280th Street job. So they're start forming the rail next. And they're continuing deck on the Essex Bridge. A photograph there from the Coron drone that they brought. Looking from the north to the south. Downriver, we're working on the next bridge, G34, which is at 190th in the middle Archeo. And then the next base stabilization job I did run across the contractor. I was down looking at our J Road job, and I'm confident that we'll have at least 2 bidders this time instead of just a regular one. Next week is Title VI review from the DOT, and that'll probably prompt some other paperwork for the board supervisor here. There's a Plenty of Canyons meeting tomorrow up in Woodbury County, and I do not plan to attend. The next thing on the agenda is the funding agreement. Do you have any questions for the engineer update part?
I had a couple. I had a call today, you might have too, about road signs getting hit,
Yes,
knocked over a bunch.
it's central part of the county down there, yes.
What is I mean, somebody actually hit one line, and they hit 10 of them. When do we, is there any way to have them help
Well, we need to talk to him and see if we can,
us slow down?
not quite, you don't have to get quite so close.
Yeah. The other thing is, we have this call all the time, wanted me to ask this night. On the grade road, they put all the dirt on one side, big piles. Everywhere, guy sprayer called me, and he can't
cause him to drive over center and be dangerous because he can't run it. What is the reason for piling up over there?
Well, we have, you know, we're cutting sod and
Right.
putting it in the window on the side.
Kind of sort,
Kill it and stuff underneath and then move it back.
on he was wondering about trying to, is there any other, put a little farther over or break it back over, or put,
What,
it's making it
once
really
we
hard.
give you some details more perhaps.
Yeah,
You know,
so that's,
What was the thing with the signs?
there's a,
or landowners, they're doing some mowing, you know, along.
So they hit the sign.
They hit
There
the
it is.
sign.
Landowner hits the sign.
Continues.
Right.
you can actually hit one, but it's been more than 10 signs, is that correct, last year?
There's a problem. It's brought to my attention last year.
Yeah, so we're kind of how to curb this from happening, a lot of efforts going into replacing signs, it's dangerous if they're not there,
Yeah.
how we can address that. Those are 2 questions I had all then. Okay, we'll go on to the,
Also, do you have any updates on that training?
The
19th still? Okay.
we're gonna close the road down on T Avenue north of Corey and arrange to, park our machinery off the road there. That's the stretch of road we're gonna, there's no residents along that stretch, so we're gonna work that.
Good. All right.
We got
Thank
a
you.
location.
Yep.
So I gotta direct your attention to the next thing, a funding agreement for, the T-34 bridge. This is a routine, funding agreement. It'll be a federal aid job. I guess the only thing to note is it's 100% HB2 funds. There's no 80-20 match that we have to, use our farm to market fund. So this is just strictly bridge money at 100%. Right, so I need a motion to approve.
need a motion on that, this is for the bridge on 190th.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, we got a motion on a second. Any other discussion on that? That bridge, okay, hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay.
Thank you.
Got that,
I got some here. I got.
you got the other one? Okay, next up we have here, Jason from Home Base Iowa. Hi.
Mind if I approach and raise?
Yeah, go ahead.
Handouts, you can read this later if like, the magazine, has a one pager inside it and there's an article on Home Base Iowa. It's kind of an overview of it. The one pager is kind of a handout that talks a little bit about a restructuring that's happened that I'll just cover. So my name is Jason Chiquin. I'm the program manager for Home Base Iowa. I'm assuming most of you have heard about it. If not, you've seen the Home Base Iowa signs coming into Florinda here. Home Base Iowa is a one-of-a-kind public-private partnership that connects veterans, military personnel, and family members with resources and opportunities in Iowa. It was created around 2014 to kind of help to meet some of Iowa's workforce needs and to bridge some of those skill gaps, right? So really what we're talking about is helping let veterans and their families know, hey, we want you here, we got great jobs for you, we want you to live in Iowa. There are 3 parts to Home Base Iowa. The first piece is that workforce component. The second piece is that we partner with about 29 institutions of higher education right now, because many veterans use the GI Bill to get their degrees, and so we can obviously retain them here in Iowa. And the third component, the reason I'm here, is the Home Base Iowa community piece, that support piece. There are requirements that I'll briefly talk about right now, but what we're trying to do is to onboard the remaining Iowa counties. I've actually just was in Mills County recently. I was in Fremont yesterday, and I'm here in Page County. I actually see this as a really great opportunity to send, hey, this part of Iowa is a great place to live. It really is beautiful here. And, you know, we're not that far from off the Air Force Base, and certainly there's opportunities. Let me just kind of talk about the the requirements of this, and I do have an ask. I can certainly follow up. I appreciate Supervisor Maher for adding it to the agenda. To become a home-based Iowa community, we'll need a county resolution. I can provide some examples of that. It's pretty easy. All that resolution does is says we as the County Board of Supervisors support this program and want to see it happen. There is a business requirement. 10% of eligible businesses need to be designated HBI businesses, but that's really done because we're an older program, so we've been engaging for a long time, so we don't have to worry about that. The third piece is to provide an incentive package. We're out there on a national level, across the state, with Iowa National Guard, of course, letting them know, hey, these communities really want, they value you, they want you to work, live, and play in their communities. And so I can talk a little bit about those incentives and what some of our communities are doing. The fourth piece is that we'll place home-based Iowa community signs at some of the major highways that come into the county, so that anybody comes in sees that. So we'll work with a point person here and just put that on a map, and we'll work with the Iowa DOT to make that happen. And then the fifth component is we do a dedication ceremony. This program, again, our drive, the reason I'm here right now is we've been at this for a little bit now, and we're trying to find the people to work with on that grassroots level. But I'm here because we're really from, I mean, the highest level from the governor on down. We want to see all 99 counties on board so that we can send that message. No matter where you end up in Iowa, you're going to be connected with the support and the resources that call Iowa home. And so right now we have, over 75%. And I've been out there and we have a bunch coming on board right now. So I'm certainly open to answering any questions you might have. I can get into some more specific details. What I'd like to do, Supervisor Maher, is just follow up with you with some examples. Certainly provide some more supplemental information, any questions you have, but are there any questions?
Do you work with the DA or?
Absolutely. So one of the things that we do is, and this is a second really request that I have for you because we haven't had that kind of traction at the local level, is we always want to work with the economic development folk, obviously, because there are opportunities. And so if you can help me understand who I really need to be working with there, and then obviously the county VA offices are we always involve them in the process of this, because they're your, often that focal point for many veterans reintegrate. They're the access to state and federal benefits. And I don't know, I didn't get the information, but there is a report that shows what is brought into the county in terms of service connected benefits. So there is very often some economic benefits of that, of working with that. So absolutely, it's a really important piece of it. We're in Marshall County, onboarded them a couple weeks ago, and Commandant Todd Jacobus was there. He's the executive director of the Iowa Department of Veterans Affairs. So at the highest level, again, we're really engaging and trying to make this happen. It really is important when we're out there. The state of Iowa is invested in letting veterans, getting people to come here. And so we just want to be able to say, hey, Page County is a great place to work, live, and play.
So who else in Page County is a part of? Florinda has Shenandoah. Is it a home-based community?
I want to say, if I have to get back to you, ma'am. Right now we have 126 home-based Iowa communities. What we realize is how important it is that we have that organization at the county level. And then obviously Florinda adds value to that, right? And so we've seen some great partnerships between some of the cities. One great example is Scott County. We brought them on board. Davenport came on board with them. They actually offer a home purchasing grant. The state of Iowa right now offers a $5,000 home purchasing grant for veterans. And so some communities decide to do an additional grant on top of that. There's some relocation support. There's even a lot around entrepreneurship. So I can provide those examples, of course.
So what is required of the county? When you said incentive packages,
So we leave it up to the county. What I will say is that I came to this program because I believed that we could inspire a greater sense of excellence in returning services to those who have served us by sharing best practices. So what I want to be able to do is to provide all of you those best practices. This is an older program, so we've learned a lot. Early on, I think a lot of counties or a lot of communities would go out to businesses and they'd say, well, we'll give you a 5% discount. And that's really good to show a welcoming environment, but it's not going to get somebody to relocate to your community. And so what I'll say to your question, it really is left up to the communities to determine what that incentive package looks like. And so, of course, we can kind of continue. I'd like to learn more. This is actually my first time ever to Florinda. It's beautiful. It really is. I mean, I watch people around here. I think there's a lot of veterans that would love to live in a rural area like this. So.
Yeah. So is it something you need to talk to our Veterans Affairs?
Yep. So
Janet, you talk to her.
Yep.
See what she thinks about it and come
So,
back to us.
yep. There's absolutely no expectation from the state, from the Iowa Department of Veterans Affairs, that the county VA rep is driving this forward. But what we find is that there's a vested interest in that. And so she's going to be able to provide a lot of insight. So there's absolutely going to be that continued conversation. What I find is that there are a lot of staff, like our VA reps or like economic development folk, that want to make this happen, but they don't feel comfortable working on behalf of the county. And so some people in the resolution will kind of designate those point people to kind of take the lead on it. Obviously, everything will be approved through here, but so to your point, I think what would be helpful for me is to kind of understand who I need to be working with.
when you said over 75% participation, is that counties?
Yeah, that was specific to the counties right now. Yeah, and I have, just to give you an example, because I've been having this conversation since I came on board of the program, if we haven't had that movement, I'm now going out and I'm on the schedule of every board of supervisors groups across Iowa for those counties that haven't come on board yet. I will say that this is an area where I think our program hasn't been as engaged. And that's a big piece that's really important. That one pager, just to give you a little bit of background, Home Base Iowa used to fall under the Iowa Economic Development Authority and IWD. In 2019, it came fully under Iowa Workforce Development. And more recently, we have combined all the veterans programs under the Office of Veterans Workforce Services. What that means for you is that we have staff at every American Job Center across Iowa. We have a great team just specifically for HBI career planners. We hired 5 in January of 22nd, and just those that touch the HBI career planners, we've now placed over 371 veterans and spouses, help them find meaningful employment. That doesn't take into account all the other staff that are part of other programs. So we're really tracking that. We can show in those communities that have really meaningful incentives are able to show that return on investment. And so that's something that's really important.
And I assume if Florinda is a home-based Iowa city, that you have already, or someone has already touched base with our economic development here.
I need help with that. I definitely could.
Because there's economic development here, there's economic development in Shenandoah,
Yeah.
and there's economic development in Essex.
So there is, I have traffic of that. I think what happens is I don't believe, and tell me if I'm wrong, that there's an actual economic development group at the county level. And so what you have sometimes is economic groups that are working for the
We
city.
contribute to each of those.
Yeah, and so what I think you would need is to let those people at that city level and for here say, hey, you can kind of work on behalf of the county, if that makes sense. We've seen that happen because some counties actually have like an economic development group or somebody at that county level. And I don't believe that is how it's structured here. And I think that's certainly important.
Since we contribute to each of those,
Right.
they would be the touch points, I would think, and
Mhm.
represent the county.
So
So,
that's what needs to happen, reach out to all the economic development.
Do the individual cities then have incentives? Or is it all counties?
well, some do. I'll say like, for instance, Florinda came on quite some time ago. And I'm sorry, I don't have my notes in front of me. I don't believe that there's like a significant incentive unless I'm mistaken. Some counties in the city of Norwalk offers a $5,000 grant for a veteran or spouse that starts or continues a business.
And you're
We're
looking
seeing,
at bigger cities.
huh?
You're looking at bigger places.
Well, actually, I can give you some examples of some rural counties. I mean, Winnebago and Worth up north, they offer $1,000 relocation benefit. Shelby County just came on board. They offer a $1,000 entrepreneurship grant. There are actually rural counties that are, or communities that are really figuring ways to make this work. And I think it's always a challenge when you start talking about like financial incentives. I think there's some creative ways to make that happen, and I'm happy to continue those conversations. So really the ask that I would have is, I'll send you some examples, sir, of resolutions. I think that's something you can look at. I would encourage you to maybe help identify who you kind of want to work on this and kind of empower them through that resolution. And then, I can send you all those examples, but also what about Page County makes this unique? There might be some ways that we can kind of play around with incentives where it might not be financial, but it might be a way to showcase why this is such a great place to live. And that's, I think, an important piece. But I
Actually, find point people
I'd say economic development. probably.
and take an email back to him with all those people. Three cities and
Yeah, and I don't know if you want information on who the Veterans Affairs person to contact, if you'd like to contact them or.
yeah, I can get you that. Yeah, I can be in contact. That's something. I think what it would be is if there's a conversation saying, hey, this is something. And if they attended like the annual training that all county VA reps go through, they heard it from a lot of people that this is something that we're pushing. But what I wanted to say, sir, is there's not really an expectation that they're doing that, that they're onboarding the county. But very often, they're the champions that make it happen. There's not gonna be people that are probably more vested in, they're already serving the veteran.
when she says, she brings to the board all the time, how many people have moved here, how many dollars have come here.
Outstanding.
Same sort of thing you're talking about.
Yeah, and that's great because we have counties that will actually track that, those that are moving, and then you can actually see some of the economic impact from that. But okay, perfect.
I put them in contact, with all
Yep.
those, you want to do that?
Yep.
Okay, Todd, let's get you all that.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you for hearing me today, and thanks for
Yeah. They
Thanks
did a
for
good
being
job.
here.
I will say, I have yet to present to I think they just quoted me that in Fremont, the paper. I've yet to talk to the board of supervisors that wasn't overwhelming support of it. It really is unique to have a mechanism where we can come together as a community to to come together to create that shared responsibility of returning services. And we definitely want to let veterans and their families know that, hey, Iowa is not only a welcoming place, but we have opportunities. We're the #1 state for opportunity. Appreciate your time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Presentation, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next up on the agenda, we have, for Lincoln Township, I had a call from them, from a trustee. And they have an opening and they're doing some swapping, so they asked me to put on here. Dee Huseman is Lincoln Township Clerk, and then Gary Huseman, the next item on there as a trustee, so. And then Judy looked up the terms, that term ends this year.
It looks like if Gary Huseman takes the one that doesn't have any, then that's 2024, that's
Okay, so that'd
next
be-
year, so he's got through next
So
year.
2024,
Yeah.
okay.
And it looks like
And the
that
clerk-
Gary's the clerk right now.
Yeah, he's.
And Dee is gonna take that, and then the other one was a vacancy, so he's gonna go to the trustees.
What is the term limit on that? On the other?
26.
Like, they'll go right that on there. So that's to make that clear, so that filling that spot will be 2024 for the clerk, for Dee Huseman. So I hear a motion on that.
I'll move that we appoint Dee Huseman as Lincoln Township Clerk with the ending date of 2026, and Gary Huseman as the Lincoln Township Trustee, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay. All right. Motion and second, any other discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, got that done. Now, we're at the end already, board communication. I had a couple of things here. I went to the Pierce Creek tour last week. I've written everything I thought of. NRCS is making we toured a whole bunch of those dams I've been to already a couple years ago, and there's a few issues on some of them's on our county that are on our right of way, that where we have the dams on the road up there, and there's some trees and stuff. He's gonna make a list of what he's done, and then whether it be private or our own stuff we control, then we need to kind of put that into a letter that we say, do it basically, write a letter, send it out. I think he's preparing that to bring in.
They'll do it.
He's preparing what needs done.
Right.
They grade it, the NRCS does what needs, some don't need,
And then NRCS will take care of it.
what they bring it in here, and then if I understood him right, then we will send a letter to the landowner, or if it's our own stuff,
Oh, okay.
we will kind of,
Engineer's office will take care of it.
yeah, send that out and get that going, the maintenance, some trees.
Okay.
Most of them are in pretty good shape, actually, and, they have these electrode things that go on the galvanized tubes that keep them from rusting, and some of those, they're old, they've been there, it's almost 50 years, some of them have been there, but some of those are broke, it's a different thing, they may be repaired. We had a jail meeting yesterday. Day before, when was that, Charles? Was it 2 days ago, day before? And the 21st at 1's our next meeting, just right now, but I sent email in to, I didn't know it that day when we talked about it, but I have juvenile detention to Council Bluff at that time. So I'm gonna see if we can move that a day or something, but we have another meeting coming up. But locations, we're still, only really have about one location at the moment. And it's on the home side of the farm out there, basically, up the hill from that, north of that, is where we're still all we got. We're open to ideas, maybe one has a really good idea, come up with it, but that's where we're at right now. A lot of discussion on how much to put together, on dates. Third thing we talked about was if we want to be on the ballot, basically by August, we have to figure out what we're doing. So in the middle of July, we ought to know. So that's something to think about. And so we need to know what we would want to put on the ballot, how much, there's all the pies, how many things you want to put together. So that's something. That's why we Lyle's gonna be gone for a couple of weeks. We're gonna talk again in a couple of weeks. We're trying to narrow that down. I don't know that we can come in here and talk about it, just try to hammer out what we want to put on the ballot and get a plan put forward, and if we want to do that.
It needs to be the whole thing and not just a jail.
Well, there's a lot of discussion. I've had some calls tonight today on that, so,
I've had
Yeah.
lots of people talking to me that we need a jail.
yeah,
We need the whole thing built and the sheriff's office needs to be with it.
yeah, there's,
So,
we need to put that on the agenda. There's a lot to that. The jail does need attention, the jail part, for sure. So, anyway, so I had a meeting on that. The wind ordinance, I don't know. I never saw anything come through
I asked,
on those.
didn't get a reply, so
Yeah, well, and then
um,
when we get to the minutes, it says in the minutes, where I laid that, not even right. It says that it was decided that we would prepare a list.
you are supposed to, that's what we said last week,
It
is that yes, that you
No.
would
No.
do a list of what your changes were.
Go back and watch it.
Proposed changes were.
You said the auditor also had a list of changes. We were
No,
fine.
I said the auditor had the ordinance in a Word document for Carl to make the changes. That's what I said, if you go listen to it, that the Word document is in a Word document that the auditor has. And what I said is that,
I was thinking she was gonna send the Word document to us and then we would make change, or just verify that it was correct, that everything.
but what we basically said was that you would make a list of the
And then-
proposed changes that you have and
Better,
send them to Carl.
yeah, okay, well. That's not what I understood. We talked about it a couple of times. It'd been better Carl has been here if he did it, because no, we can go back and do that and send that to him. So we have to get that going. We have got to get those things sent to Carl. So
And he won't get it done overnight because he has
No,
other
it's
things
not.
to do.
It's gonna take time,
Yeah.
but we gotta get it going.
Did you go to the Board of Health meeting today?
I did,
Did you zoom
I
in?
zoomed into that, yes.
So what was decided?
So, yeah, so get into that. So I had to Board of Health meeting today, so we know Richard is leaving. We basically talked about a couple of different options. One of having Candace be interim for maybe the next couple of years. It pretty much sounds like the state is going to probably do something to where they're going to create either a regional type public health board. So that those powers would end up going to more of a regional. So the Richard's position would probably not be refilled. The other thing that they mentioned was possibly sharing with Montgomery County. And Richard was gonna go to their Board of Supervisor meeting and talk to them and see how they felt about it. He's already kind of reached out to their director and talked to her about it. And so there would have to be obviously some more discussions with boards on as far as that goes. But that's kind of where we.
Was there any discussion about Della coming back as interim?
Della was not interested. She said she would be able to come help if she needed, but she wanted to stay retired.
Because Candace has not been there that long.
Right, and that was brought up,
Yeah.
and we talked about, how comfortable does Candace feel? Now, the one good thing is all the grants are filled out and done up to 2024. So through there, so there wouldn't be a lot of that pressure to get some of that stuff done and going. But at the same time, Candace is pretty full with the tobacco side, so, how do they foresee that? Now, there was talk of if there was some leftover, salary left from Richard's salary, that they could maybe hire a person part-time that would come in and either help Candace with some of the on-the-ground stuff. That was discussed. We're gonna meet next Thursday, to kind of go through and, kind of reiterate what the boards have said. So Richard's gonna report on the Montgomery County Board. I don't know what your feelings are as far as those options. But I would take that back to the Board of Health.
I think it would be combined with another county that's
The sharing.
been doing it, the sharing, yeah.
Yeah, and we talked about that. So the sharing would definitely help us probably for a while. I don't know that it's going to, be able to, it'd be great if we could say we had a Southwest Iowa regional thing and the state would let us do that, but I think the state would they're gonna do what they wanna do. And, we're just gonna have to wait and see how that plays out in the next couple of years, but it's definitely one of those, I do know that I think Chuck gave Melissa a job bid application thing for another director to put up, and I think
Check
they're gonna, Chuck Nordak, yep, sorry. And they're gonna go ahead and put that up just to see, talk to some people, maybe people be upfront with them and know, hey, this is probably going to end in a year or two. You may not get anybody, you may get somebody that, wants to do something like that, but if you guys are in favor of more reaching out and trying to do some kind of sharing, I can take that back to the board.
I would be in
Or if you
favor of that.
would rather have Candace do an interim deal, that's, they're looking for our input.
Because I think Montgomery County's been in it a long time, so
Yeah,
I think that would be a good sharing.
A lot of
If they would agree with it.
A lot of schools share superintendents. I mean,
yeah.
something to look into. I don't know about
Okay.
that.
Well, I'll take that back, that we're open to that, and then, like I said, next Thursday we meet again. So on a Zoom call, so.
They're
we'll
gonna be
look
at
at that.
noon again.
Pardon me?
Is that at noon again?
Yes, at noon. No. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it's not at noon. Today's was at noon. Next, I think it's at 8 AM.
8 a.m.
Yeah, because some people had some scheduling conflicts, so.
Something to not forget, I wrote down, it might be easy to forget, the 14th, next Wednesday, I just noticed an email is our zooming in at 9 for Fremont County's meeting. That's before our next meeting here for the Johnson Run,
9 AM.
yeah,
Okay.
and,
Do they Zoom?
I think so, we can call it, I've called into them before. Or you come here, we can probably do it. So we have to have an agenda for that on the,
I think Melissa said we don't need to levy. If that's what they're wanting, or maybe they're gonna talk about cutting brush or whatever too, I don't know, but
yeah.
I
so
think we
might-
don't need the money, so we need the dollar amount though.
Either then, Yeah, how many dollars we have. Yeah, we need to know that number before the meeting, how many dollars we have set aside. And just don't forget, it's easy to forget, so that the 14th at 9.
And then I had a EMA meeting and an E911 meeting this last week, so that went really good.
Yeah,
Last week, yeah.
I didn't have any.
all right. A lot of things to
This
remember
Got a couple coming up.
here. Do we have, I don't know where it is, the key for the bathroom doors down there? Is it around here somewhere? You know what that is? There, I went down and locked them. I came in and locked on the inside. We did that last year for something.
So you unlocked them already for tonight.
Yeah,
Okay.
I went down there and just propped the door, because I don't have keys, which is what we did last year some. But where is that key?
I don't know.
We're gonna find that. It's because with that you can turn it and actually unlock the door.
Is it one of those like hex key things?
No,
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 it's
it's
a
an
regular-
actual.
no, it's an actual
I've seen it before. Chuck had it. I don't know where it is.
I don't know, I might have it, I don't know.
And it might
They gave me
be
a big key ring of keys.
all these get-togethers, maybe if there's 3 of them or something,
Yeah.
just like we have our keys, maybe have that also, so we can unlock the bathroom.
Okay.
We could maybe get some copies and have 3 keys somehow. Something to think about for next week, if there's more things
So
going on.
you'll come back and unlock tonight or locked up.
Yeah, I'll shut it up tonight, but that's just something we need to find the keys and find 3 keys somehow.
Okay.
Okay, we've got claims next up. You guys have done.
We've looked at them,
I'm
yeah.
not done.
I'll move that we approve them.
Okay,
Second.
all right, I wanna look at them for it. Hold on. Hey, hold on. Okay, I got them all done now. Okay, a motion and a second, and discussion on claims. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, got claims. Now, to the minutes. Did they send out the minutes? I've got them, they're on the website.
They're on the website. No,
They were emailed to us.
no.
No, I don't. You know.
So, a minute here, and, let's figure it out. Is there any? Thought we went through those and as we talked about in January, the discussion not being in the minutes there. we got that. I amended those, here's the 30th meeting.
This one's.
This is the 30th.
Oh, sorry, it's first. I'm done. Basically, went through there, just took the discussion out, left the emotions and the resolutions and all the.
You talk about.
Sorry, I'm sorry. Amended the minutes to, remove the discussion, left all the motions and the resolutions, all the wording like it says in Iowa code. So, got those there, look at the amendments there. They're for May 30th and for June 1st. And then they're, I guess, on that, on our minutes, I need a motion to, I'd like to have a motion. Here, I'll make a motion. I got it down here.
You can make it, yeah, you can make it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Everybody knows me, I think, except you. I'm Pam Hersberg. I lived this position with him for 16 years, so I give you all kudos for doing it because I know it is stressful. But I did early childhood for Fremont and Page County for 5 years, and I'm sorry, but your minutes are terrible. I had training as well as every state early childhood director, 2 different times by the state ombudsman's office. When I go back, when I read the minutes, because I'm trying to find out what's going on at meetings, they're not clear. It says public comment was made, but it doesn't say what the comment pertained to. Now, granted, the ombudsman's office told us it doesn't have to say he said, she said, but when you remove all discussion period, you're not being fair to your constituents of the
You
county.
need to have all of it.
Pardon
You
me?
need to have all of it. You can't just pick your favorite quote.
Well, no, but you have to have the pertinent,
Right.
discussion part, so the way they always told us was if someone came in off the street and wanted to look at your minutes, they weren't at the meeting, they needed to be able to tell exactly what happened at the meeting, why people voted the way they did. But I guess I get concerned when I see public comment was made. I don't know who was at the meeting, which we were required to put, who attended the meetings, but it would be nice to know who made the comment and what it pertained to.
Yeah, and if we had all public comment, we've had minutes in the last few weeks that have some public comment, not others. Why would you have half? I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Well, no, I see what you're saying, but you could say in general what the comment was about.
But if you leave out, whoever writes the minutes, they should look the same. You should get the same story, no matter who writes it. Is that right? The same story should be told.
Well, so like I said, if somebody comes in and wants to know what happened at the meeting, they pick those minutes up, they read it, they can tell exactly what went on at the meeting. You don't have to have Jacob said this, or John Hersberg was in attendance and made a comment and said this, but.
Yeah.
Hi.
Well, I think the problem is.
We have a
that
video that shows everything, and I want her to.
I feel like that there's a certain narrative that's being told in the
narrative.
minutes.
It's not objective.
That, so when you're taking minutes, I've taken minutes as a secretary for the fire department many
I've been
times.
a clerk.
And trying
Yeah.
to write,
Minutes for years for different states.
trying to write everything that everybody's talking
No,
about.
and I just said, you don't
Yes.
say he
Yep.
said, she said.
No, and
But-
I get that, and,
Right.
but just trying to capture everything is very
But
difficult.
when I see public comment was made and nothing else, it's like, okay, so who made the and it would be nice to know. And I'm sorry, but some people are beating a dead horse when they come to meetings consistently and they're on the same, harping on the same topic, it gets old.
Right.
And yes, I did see your Facebook post and I did comment on it, as a couple of other people did here too, but you removed our comments. And,
Well, I didn't want it to be about that.
well, that's, but basically, it's not a good idea to put that on Facebook because it becomes I'm sorry, pissing match. And you don't want that, and you want to see unity too with your elected officials. You don't have to agree on everything. You have to agree to disagree.
For over a year, I put the videos up on my own,
No, I know,
on my own,
I
not
know.
here, not with county dollar, nothing.
No, I know you
I
did that.
started a YouTube channel
I know
to
you
do it,
did
so
that.
everybody can watch if they like me or not.
No, I know you did that because I
And
did.
so I am not about hiding a thing, from anybody.
No,
But they
right.
have to
She's
see that.
talking about minutes though.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
talking
what-
about minutes.
That's the video's most accurate way to see and participate, and it's kind of the thing we have now. The minutes are objective, I talked to the IFIB, is that how I say it, right, or no, what's the IPIB? Who kind of rules over some of these things.
Right.
Public report. And to think about there being discussion in minutes was foreign to them unless it's extremely just fact only. It cannot be discussion where you say, he said, she said, you leave out any of it, it's not accurate anymore. And sometimes in the boards I'm on, discussion isn't how you vote. You discuss
No,
one
but
way.
if
and
you
vote another.
if there was something pertinent that you were
A
voting
fact,
on.
like a number of dollars, yes.
Right, and say, Jamie brought to the board,
Skid loader cost $100,000.
yes, put that in there. But if, there's nothing wrong with having listed the public that attends, at the bottom. We always had, it's funny because the state must have a higher expectation for the early childhood areas than they have for your county government, which I totally don't understand
No.
that.
No.
Every-
Well, it's like this one, Jacob, you're taking this out of the minutes. And I think it needs to be in here. Clark has an objection to the $10,000 budget amendment to the Veterans Affairs budget. Clark stated the revenues and expense were in the original budget, so Veterans Affairs is overspending an additional $10,000. Clark stated the budget will be over without an amendment, so the amendment needs to be done this year, but should not be done next year. That needs to
And
be
but
in
that
there.
needs to be in there for
That
your
needs to
people
be in
and
there for
for your
next year.
residents of the county, so
Yes.
they know what's going on.
Yes.
No one was allowed, there's both sides, there's more going on there.
But you're explaining a budget amendment, Jason, or Jacob, excuse
Now,
me.
we've also had in the minutes all kinds of crazy things. We started, there's been, it is not objective, there's pointing out your favorite discussion. We bought it was a couple weeks ago. We bought a dump trailer and JD and Jeff put together a really good presentation on how much money it saved and all about how much it cost and how it paid itself off in a year and a half. And there was zero mention of that. The next item, I don't remember what it was something that was of interest to somebody, and it had great length in there about that and pointed out their opinions. I don't have it in front of me.
Well, you don't wanna
of why
write
they
it
want-
down.
So you got nothing on one thing. I'm being told, wow, we want everything about everything. No.
No,
It's subjective to whoever's writing it. No matter who writes the minutes, they should look the same. They should tell the same story. The minutes are.
There should be a certain format for the minutes.
There should be,
that's
and anybody
always
should.
followed. But I'm not saying you put down so-and-so said, but for instance, like that, yes, JD and whoever else
That could have
provided the
been part.
presentation, the truck was this much. So-and-so moved to, so because as a resident, when I'm looking at your minutes, it's not telling me, yes, I see your motion, I see who seconded, I see that it was approved. And I don't want a book, I'm not saying that.
If
but-
they're objective, it's fine to have extra stuff. We went into a time, I don't believe there are
Okay.
objective. And so that's the problem, and that's why we're doing this. They're not objective, they're biased, not all the time, but some of the time. So we made a rule.
Go ahead, Brad.
Follow Iowa
Step
code.
to it.
I've talked with people who read through this. I'm not lying.
I'm
You're
just
thinking like me,
saying
it's
the
here.
training, that came from the omnibusman's office to the state early childhood directors on 2 different occasions in Des Moines. And why then were we held to a higher
I don't
standard?
know
And the
that.
county can do.
I sat in training up in Des Moines, but how many people's in there? How many?
You listen to a brand new.
Hundreds of supervisors in there
The
and
county, I mean, we have looked at the Iowa code and tried to follow that exactly.
exactly. And I think my motion.
And we're not trying to deviate from the Iowa code. We're not trying to hide anything. We're trying to do exactly what the Iowa code states.
And
I think you need to provide enough information to the county residents so they know what's going
Well,
on.
we are spending resources to upload every minute of the video for anyone.
Okay, but a lot of your elderly people don't get on YouTube. I'm not
Well,
saying I'm.
It is a very nice thing.
Why don't you?
One at a time. You go ahead, John.
Thank you.
Does everybody hear you? I wanted to hear your
Why
comments.
don't you read the minutes at the end of the meeting and approve it or not?
Probably should. We never did that since I've been here, but
That's the way we always,
I don't know when.
so you can get it to the paper right away.
Yeah,
Because you can't send it to the paper without approval.
well, actually, I
They actually are doing.
the auditor has been sending them unapproved.
Yeah.
They one after another.
It should be.
No, there's an AG's opinion,
And
John,
that's not.
in 1982, that the AG is upholding as interpretation of the code of
Here's
Iowa.
what it says.
Saying-
Text and format of matters, missed a big word, required. And what is required is exactly what we're doing.
Anyway,
And then-
what's happening is it says the text of the minutes is the auditor's, and that's the AG's opinion.
So
So Melissa has been publishing them as such.
we're gonna need to get
So,
on the
yeah.
Attorney General opinion on this. To say that the board doesn't control their minutes, do you believe the board controls their minutes for the auditor? Who votes to approve the minutes, the auditor or the board?
Because if you-
Yeah, well, Judy's telling us it's the
and the
auditor.
auditor is a clerk to the board. They're not
She's
the
the clerk,
auditor
but
when
she
they're
just
sitting.
leaves-
Let Brad talk, will you?
Yeah.
That's what's happening.
I am Brad Richards. Believe it or not, I'm a retired administrative law judge, which means I'm somewhat of an expertise when it comes to administrative law. So be cautious when you're telling me that you are abiding 100% by the Iowa code, because guess who went through the Iowa code last night before I came to this meeting? And again, thank you, and thank you for me being here.
Got it all right.
Okay, y'all know who I am, I don't know who you are. Who's the man over there, like the court reporter that's taking down every single thing that's being said? And who are you, sir?
You want to tell me who you are?
Order from Jackson County.
He's
That's
here.
why he looks like a court
He's not
reporter.
hired by
He's not-
us.
No.
Yeah.
I watched somebody taking down every
Yes.
single word that you
Yes.
guys are saying.
When he can
That
understand
doesn't
it.
need to be what is in the minutes.
No.
But when JD was up here, and JD, your minutes from July 1. JD, and this is really.
July
smart.
1,
King provided a roads update. That's the minutes. I sat here listening or trying to listen to the roads update.
mhm,
I still have no idea what you guys are considering. or
because they
voting
don't
on,
want it in there.
Because I couldn't hear what he was saying. He was mumbling, jumbling. And I told my wife, I said, why isn't he submitting a written consent type agenda? So that you guys know exactly in front of you, you could get it beforehand.
No, we do.
We do.
We do. We get, he sends us
He
We
wants
do.
to
an agenda.
highlight that for him. I have no problem, because that's not discussion. Discussion that we need to go out of minutes. But he said, she said, that is my FFA, Robert's rule thing, all Robert's rules things, say discussion and not belong to minutes. Because it can be biased. It's not objective. And you don't even vote the way you discuss half the time. So that is not, and you read the Iowa code, that's what it says.
I also stated in the minutes last time that Clark stated caution needs to be used due to the Shelby County issue, which I want in there.
Right.
Those are my statements. I'm a supervisor. I want those in there.
But then we have to have all statements from all sides. We have to have the court, because what if, on many issues. we
But
have
you
to
don't
have-
want your statements in there.
Well, whether it's good or bad, it would just be
Hi,
biased.
Mary Jane.
Every word.
I just want to know, who do you think's being biased? Just because we don't agree with what you think, doesn't mean we don't actually need to be at the same opinion and still be represented. And I feel that some of these people are totally biased on everything they do.
In the minutes, we will have possibly several folks here lately by Judy with no responses from us. And we respond. How is that objective? For somebody to read the newspaper, how is that objective, Brad? If she makes a quote, well, this is what I think is terrible about the situation, and we say, well, what about this?
Jacob, you
That's
asked
not
me a question, I'm going to give you a direct
Yeah.
answer.
How?
I haven't seen an objective comment from you about the windmills since you have been elected.
So because you don't
You have-
agree with me, I shouldn't be in the minutes.
You are just like me. We all have biases. I will admit I have biases.
Everybody has.
I'm not afraid to them, but they don't. 15 years, I did over 15,000 hearings at the prison out here. Not a single one was overturned by any court in the state of Iowa. Because I made sure every due process point, every I was dotted, every T was crossed. That doesn't mean that I didn't want to reach across the desk and strangle the inmate for what he just said. I couldn't. I had to throw my biases back and make.
So tell me this, so she can make her statement and we can't.
No, I'm saying,
Yeah, answer that. And if she makes a statement, I think it's still.
Brad, that's what you just said. You just said that Judy's statement could be in there, but Jacob and Todd's can't. That's what you just said.
So I take them all.
That is what you just said.
That's Kalen Polk.
It's Kalen Folk. But that's what you just said, Brad, is Judy's statements can be in there, but Jacob and Todd's can't. See, in this case, there's 3 sides to every story, but one side is being put in the minutes. One side is being put in the minutes.
Cameron, hold on.
may I answer your question?
Calm down.
Just do one at a time.
Now, listen, Brad, I want to talk to you. Don't go away too quick. You just said, Judy's statement in there, but I don't have objective statements, so they can't. You
That's not what I said.
Okay, then say it, then so we can have hers without ours.
That's not. what I
No,
said.
that's not what he said.
And what do we have then? All of them? Every word of every statement?
Not every word.
Is that in the minutes?
Every,
No, it doesn't.
every clerk of section, every board secretary for the state of Iowa school board doesn't put in every single word that is said at every meeting. But there
Has to be
is a, clearly if you go to the school board minutes, you know what was discussed. You know what the opinions were, whether the people were biased or not. And no, I didn't say Judy's words could be in there and yours not. What I said was.
That's exactly what you said.
For a very long time. And you and I both have biases, and we should own that. But every single decision that I made as an administrative law judge was made based upon the law, never about my personal biases, never. I couldn't have that, otherwise every decision would be thrown out. And instead, I have over 15,000 decisions.
Who cares?
A record of all actions taken, in complete text and motion, resolutions, amendments, ordinances, and comments. On the request of the minutes shall include a record of each supervisor. If you back. Shall include a record of all actions. Action is the motion. And then
There was a motion made to accept. Okay, we say aye, those opposed say no. No, it's not. How did you say it? Did you see it? There's nothing. It says what actions to take.
But did we have discussion, Joe, at that decision?
if you go into. Well, that's fine, I mean, that's fine, because I talked to the people who grade us on it, and it is discussion.
Who grades us on this?
It's somebody to turn us in on things. If we would get in trouble with it, that is who would win. So. It's very. It's also the head. Objecting and discussion is very dangerous. That's basic Robert. Okay. I've not said we couldn't answer. I've been discussing about. I don't care if you watch a video, and come to meeting, open. I'd like to have you here, call in, Zoom in. We have so many ways to watch this thing.
I understand.
You can call them.
But I would like to just remember not once, even though I disagree with you, I've been personally critical towards you or call you names or be disrespectful. You are my board of supervisors.
Right.
Okay? Whether I like that or not is immaterial, or whether you like me is immaterial. You're my board of supervisor. You are my board of supervisor. You are my board of supervisor. I have not once been disrespectful to you and my people that have been on the radio to me. And that's unfortunate. That's what I want this whole thing to stop. I want us to go back to being what's in best for Page County. Not what's best for me and my little subdivision, but what is going to be the best for this county. And I heard you guys talking about that very thing tonight. I have no doubt you clearly have what's in best interest of Page County. So do you. Let's just try to be more objective, less critical, and do what I saw you doing.
The minutes here, we've got to figure out. These minutes are really, really, longer than me, the minutes long. And they're like. That is just, did that fall? No.
The microphone's quit.
finish this. So. Trying to run. You know, we had a secretary taking notes. The secretary got to dictate what was in the meeting minutes and how. It's usually the board, they review the minutes and then they move on, yep, that's in, that should be in, we took that out of context. Right.
That's extra.
That should be what is published. It's a simple fix. Read the minutes at the end of the meeting.
They won't, the problem is, John, they don't want anything in the minutes. They don't want any, they don't want
Yeah,
anything in
we
the
have-
minutes that could explain anything.
So why do you want to take it out?
And who's objective, you know,
Who's going to decide?
Yeah, that's the thing.
John, you were one of my supervisors for many, many years.
Yeah.
How were my minutes? Were they good? Speaking, yes,
Yeah, you
Thank you.
understood what you did.
exactly. Well, you could come back and you knew, right?
We weren't transparent.
And the problem is, Todd's brand new, Jacob's been on here for 2 years. They won't listen to how minutes should actually
I think we
be,
need
how
to
the
talk to
county
you.
minutes should be. You're not doing he said, she said.
I think
You've got to put, you've got to put discussion in there
I
as
think
to how
we
you
tried
run
to-
it.
Well, to put. That was in it.
There was a lot to that. But they haven't wanted anything in prior to this thing on the engineer stuff, so.
Not saying he said, he said. So they talked about, let's see the names. Jacob. Dan. Made a statement in favor of the minutes. That's what we're talking about, not putting specific. I understand what you're saying, but what I'm telling you is we're not answering, we're telling you we want you to be. They. But. Then how do you get that changed? So we have that, so you have minutes like we used to have. I read Judy's minutes for years. And I can tell you, I have lived in this town my entire life. I love this town. I love this county. I want everyone in the world to live here. I love it that much. Okay, be black and red. Now, that being said, this is the first meeting I've ever come to because I have no idea. And that's not a, well, the fact that you just said you don't know either, that's a problem. We did know. We did know. That's what I'm
What
saying.
she's saying is the minutes.
I
They
knew.
don't know.
Okay, this is not an objective, subjective thing. What I'm telling you is. I think you understand
understand what I'm saying, or you're just refusing to listen, which, if you feel that you don't want to listen to me, incorrect, you're representing me, you should listen to me. What I'm saying to you is, you need to have a talk, if it's the auditor that's doing it, then the discussion, the meeting, it should say in there, public comment was made in support or in opposition. It doesn't have to say what the comment was, so it doesn't have that bias to it. But people want to know who's opposed, who's not.
It depends on who.
Quit telling me you're doing it according to the code. It's just really irritating me because you're giving the same answer and not giving a solution to fixing the problem that we are bringing to you as your constituents.
You find it in the code what you're saying. You know, I want to bring it, I want to. About the dictatorship. Todd, at the meeting a couple weeks ago, said only the chairman, vice chairman should be allowed to talk to the media. Right. But, we're not gonna listen to the tape. And then he went on to say, we should be able to dictate who talks to the media. You go listen to the tape. That's fine. You dictate. And then you went on, wait a minute, and then you went on in the statement and he said, because she said we were dictators. Now, if that's not a convoluted.
I understand that. I will tell you that any comment I heard from you is not saying that it's your opinion. Everything you say is put as Jacob Holmes, this is what I believe. Your beliefs are very much out there. I'm just telling you that is exactly how I see it, and that is how it goes. You speak your piece, yes, I'm about to speak mine. All I'm asking, how do we get you to put in the minutes so I can come in here, look at them, and I don't have to come to this meeting because I can see, oh, this was discussed. There's no discussion in there to even say yay or nay. So it looks like you two are getting together and deciding everything ahead of time. You come here and vote it, and then we're stuck with it. And that is not okay. I understand you don't always agree with Judy. I don't always agree with Judy. But you don't listen either. You listen to those opinions that match yours. And I just feel like it's very counterproductive to not include yay and nay conversation. I don't agree with you. I still want to hear what you have to say because you are an elected official representing me. I don't think some of your opinions are correct. You won't think any of mine are correct, and that's okay. But I have the right to read them and understand them. I agree with Judy's opinion on some of these things. They're being silenced. Don't like because you're cutting the minutes to no discussion. Please don't tell me I'm holding the minutes.
Otherwise.
That's not what I
Find
said.
the place, you find the place. But you find the place in the Iowa code, find the place in the Iowa code that you keep quoting.
Here. 331.504, record of city.
It doesn't say only that, it says it shall include those. And when you, and when you look at,
I think you're throwing the word objective out. And I'm not sure you totally understand what that means, because you're just throwing it out in our face. frustrated. I'm sitting here, I have never been so frustrated in my entire life. It is all I can do, not to just lash out and start screaming. This is the most frustrating thing I have ever seen in my life. And I love this town. I don't feel like we're representing it, because you don't care if I know what's happening here or not. That is a problem. That man knows the Iowa code. That man followed that code much longer than we've even been alive, okay?
But you.
We don't care about that.
Well, okay, but this is my problem. This is my problem. And I appreciate that you did that, because I am a computer user. However, people my parents' generation and those beyond them don't have a computer. My parents live in a condo that couldn't even get Wi-Fi to run a video. And this community is an ancient community. So who you're representing aren't following YouTube. But they're not seeing what's going on because you're only putting it on YouTube. You're not putting it in the minutes.
One comment without the response, and you said this, I think, is not right.
No, that's not right.
So Judy, with one comment without a response, do we need to add more to our minutes then?
Did you have a response?
Yes, almost always there's a response. in our discussion.
Almost always, it's always a response. We are
Almost
spending,
always.
I have said it over and over again, we are spending hours and hours on minutes and
Yes.
agendas to the detriment of Page County.
Yeah, this is silly.
This is ridiculous.
And the
And it's
board.
just like, would you wait?
Yeah.
And it's just like the free-for-all that we have in here most of the time in allowing people to talk whenever and whatever. Instead of in the public comment section or holding people accountable to whatever. It's just, you've got to have information in the minutes. You think they're slanted. I don't think they're slanted. You may think they're slanted, or you may think they're not slanted. It just depends on who you are.
There
But
should
to
be no
have,
way to have that.
but to have the information in there is what's important.
Yes, and it's not possible to have all that information in there and for someone to not think it's slanted. Because when you have all of the information, we live in a world where our news is slanted to who we want to listen to. You watch Fox News if that is your particular slant. You watch CNN or MSNBC if that's your slant, okay? So you're always going to have a slant, but all the information needs to be there. And then if I see a slant, so what? Maybe it's a slant I don't like, but I know what's going on.
I don't see how there's slant in fact. And the code takes all slant out. How you vote, yes or no, on the wording of a motion really matters. Because that tells everybody what you're voting. The wording matters, that's why, so when we vote, you know, that motion's right there, yes, 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 no, no, whatever. You know what happened. and
I think we will agree to disagree because you don't listen and you are not hearing me. And that's a shame.
Todd asked me a few weeks ago why I applied for this position. I applied for this position because I thought, as Todd being new and Jacob being fairly new, I could bring something to the table. I could bring experience to the table. I could bring, 30 years. I know Caitlin will say, what difference does it make? But anyway, I could bring the experience that I have in providing the information that was necessary. And I worked with the board long enough that I know how the board worked and I knew. But neither one of, I've never been so frustrated in all my life, nor have I ever been called a liar. The number of times I've been called a liar or called into question that I'm treating somebody one way or treating somebody another way or whatever. My whole thing in coming in here was the experience that I brought and could bring some value to the board. But this place has become a clown show. We are the laughing stock of the state of Iowa because people clear in Polk County know what's going on, and further, we have supervisors who are calling other supervisors and talking about how terrible the auditor is or how terrible I am, and don't think that doesn't get back to us. And people are saying, oh, you don't know what, I'm getting heckled in the crowd out here. And week after week, you know, the Todd sat in here one week and said, don't be on social media, it's terrible. Then you post a 6-minute video and it's like, really? Okay, so I have never been put down by some people like I have been put down. And it's nice to see some friendly faces here tonight for a change. But the amount of time and effort that is wasted on you trying to prove your point that only certain things should be in the minutes are ridiculous. We need to put the information in there and we need to provide it to the public as it's always been done so that the public knows what's going on. And that's where it stands. And I'm going to continue to know on these minutes every week that you take anything out.
This is Ryan Yurkowski. Can you hear me?
You want to call me a liar again, Ryan?
No, yeah. What I find comical is every person that has came to the podium tonight, all put together on this minute topic, all put together haven't been to 5 total meetings in the last 2 years. And every one of them has drove Jacob's point home. All Jacob is saying is, if you can't get both sides of the discussion, then you don't put it in there. And I have proven time and time again where not all of the discussion is in the minutes. It's factual. You can watch the videos, you can go there, and then you can look at the minutes. So these people that are saying they're getting their information or want to get their information off of the minutes has just drove Jacob's point right home, because all Jacob is saying is it's not both sides of it.
And that's an opinion.
No, that's a fact, Judy, and I proved it to you more than once. Do you want me to come in and prove it to you again?
No, I don't really care for that, Ryan. Thank you.
Okay, so then I will call you a liar.
Few weeks ago.
Somebody's talking for you.
This is, can Ashley Yurkowski speak?
Came in a few weeks ago, hold on here, and did take a section of the minutes and broke them down and used the video and left out totally the other half of the discussion. Totally, he proved it. He did prove it. It was all there. That is the whole reason. I don't want any of this. I just want it over with. I want to just go back to the code minutes and eliminate all this because of the problem we're having. If somebody can't be, if we can't keep our minutes from being not objective, then we have to go back to the code. We can't add extra unless we can add extra appropriately, objectively. I keep saying that word, but that's what it has to be. And we've done that. We've had lots of minutes that are objective. I'm not saying your minutes weren't objective for 30 years. I'm saying right now, we've had a batch that aren't. Okay, young man, what do you have to say?
I have a supervisor that I work with, and they call me, and you guys are being laughed at.
Yes.
I just want to warn you.
Hey,
They're calling me and telling me, they're laughing at you.
Yeah.
You're spending your time in the wrong place.
Young man, go ahead while you're up.
If you're talking over somebody, you're not listening to what they have to say. Yes, your opinion is important, but it's not necessarily the right opinion. So technically you shouldn't get to decide whether your opinion is correct or not, because it's not your job to say what's allowed and what's not allowed.
Thank you.
Can you read me again, which part of the Iowa code that you were quoting from?
This is what Carl says. 331.504.
Try Iowa code 21.2.
Yeah.
Official meeting regarding minutes, regarding open minutes. Here's what it says. Each government body shall keep minutes of all its meetings showing the date, time, place, members present, and the action taken at each meeting. The minutes shall, word shall, show the result of each vote taken and information sufficient to indicate the vote of each member present. The vote of each member present shall be made public at the open session. The minutes shall be public records open to public inspection. Not once did it say all discussion. Nothing.
I know it's.
So please get out Iowa Code 21.3 that tells you all you have to have in the minutes to be objective.
Yeah, that's what we're doing.
No, you are quoting something else totally. You're not quoting Iowa Code regarding minutes. You're quoting something that somebody gave you.
No, this is 31.
I said you're not.
Another guy just gets up to the podium and is driving Jacobs home. You guys are ridiculous.
No, you're in 331.
On
He's in
21,
21.
He's
He's
in the public.
How is that different?
Well, how is that different from what I said already? What is different?
And last night, I looked up and I asked the search, which is what I used to do, right? Board of Supervisors meeting minutes. It didn't go to 31. It goes to official meeting, open to public. And it's
Read that again. What are we not doing? What am I saying we shouldn't do? That's exactly.
So the sufficient part is where you feel like that covers the discussion. Is that what you mean?
How each member votes. Not why, how.
results of each. And how sufficient to indicate the vote of each person.
Which
The
means,
vote of each
like I put in last week about the Veterans Affairs, that I would approve it, vote to approve it this year, but not next year because of the way they were doing it. So that would be in there.
That is
Yes.
sufficient to understand public
Yes.
opinion, just like if you were to make a statement that disagreed with me, but Supervisor Mayor disagreed with Visitor Brad Richards. That is sufficient to know that you want to agree on this, then you vote that shows your vote, whether you agree or disagree, it doesn't have to be. So this record, it's what is sufficient so that we understand. Get rid of it.
So we think
21.3.
I gotta believe some. To compromise and somewhere. Everybody's gonna be happy somehow. I mean, I totally agree, because I get tired, there's so many other things that we need to argue about. Besides minutes. and
Exactly.
attendance. But I do want us, I mean, I want it to be, I feel like, we've got to work together and try to get final solution. Whatever that final solution is, but I'm willing to work on it. Because I don't want to spend any more time on it.
I don't either.
I don't either, but it depends on whose objective
If it's
No,
you're
I-
hitting.
Right, well, that's where we
That's the
work
problem.
together and we
We gotta work
compromise. Ever heard the term compromise? Everybody's mad because nobody gets exactly what they want.
I've heard it exactly.
So I mean, I just think, and I'm not trying to push one way or the other on, it has to be this way, because Obviously.
You've agreed with Jacob every time.
for the minutes, yeah.
Yes.
So even just looking at June 1st minutes, yeah, there's whole reason there to object, but, because they only put one thing that I said, and I said a whole bunch of stuff.
said a
that I
whole
got
bunch of
ready to
stuff.
vote. Now,
But you didn't want that in there.
it's not in there. They
You didn't
put-
want it in there.
No, they didn't put the they put
That's why we went to nothing, because you can't. put
one
everything.
comment that I made, that's what they put. So I'm willing to work on it. We need to work on it and get to a compromise, whether it's,
There's just understand what you understand. It's just state by third.
it's fine. I just want to do it the right way and
The motion that we made have been last week, making them meet Iowa code. That's been in the motion. We want to amend the minutes, striking the extra, so long as.
Is in
Right. Anybody. We're being told right now, we don't have any, the minutes are being printed.
It's an AG interpretation of.
Right. So. Oh. The minutes should not be written differently, no matter who writes them. The minutes should show the same story, no matter if somebody that loves you or hates you writes, it should say the same thing.
So I do
And
not,
that's, but that's
I
not
will, I
what
will
we
say, I do not have a problem about having enough information in there to say, not all discussion, but, and I think we've tried to do this, but but I don't have a problem with saying, hey, you know, I voted this way because, and, you know, I guess what I would hope is, I guess, people that are my constituents, if they had a problem with the way I voted, to call me or let me know. Email me, text me, and say, hey, I didn't understand why you voted that way. Could you explain to me? I would be happy to explain my situation, you know, we can have that debate. I don't shy away from debate. I mean, that's.
Now, if we add our comments, we start adding our comments, everything, we start doing this, hang on. We amend those, are they gonna be put anywhere? We've been amending things, they don't get put anywhere. Right now, we're under the opinion that the auditors in control of the minutes, not even us. So until that gets resolved, we're gonna do the attorney general.
Carl's already been to the Attorney General and he says it still stands.
So,
It still stands.
so the supervisors do not control their minutes. We're actually all talking. Oh, well. I'm very uncomfortable. So, anyway, but so is there any more discussion?
No, let's
Okay,
adjourn the
well,
meeting.
come on,
The fact that somebody, or one of our supervisors, on it more than one, rather than saying, that's not what I said, or facts, and the fact that others did nothing to say, hey, appropriate. That's the problem. And if you still alone out there and being up, I'm gonna tell you, we're watching it right now, and this is not, not once anybody's respectful. Further.
I didn't come to last 2 years of meetings.
No, I haven't. I know a lot of this community and it's disrespectful in both ways. That should not stand one of why. It's a work. One of you should. That.
I agree with being civil.
Yeah.
And I don't agree with, you know, that's.
I just say, why would it be civil? Not civil. No, I don't. That's an appropriate, that's no place yet.
I think everybody has, I've been called lots of things.
Yeah.
And when you, and I know Judy is not set up for me at all.
We need all. People need to, if they want to accuse somebody of not telling, they need to get the facts. I'm sure Ryan will bring it in here. We should do that. And everybody should be talking out. Throwing 100.
Because he's a good friend.
You know what?
Why didn't you say it's not appropriate to call one of our supervisors a liar That does not belong in this meeting. That's what I'm
What we need
asking.
to do, everybody, Ryan, I think, we need to bring in facts. If you have something that's not a full
Was
statement,
it okay for him to call her a liar?
not the word liar. I know that.
Do you think it was appropriate for the Judy to antagonize it? Did you see her smirk and say, are you gonna call me a liar today?
Right, just hang on.
I find you to be very disrespectful to the people that are here and the people that are running this county. I think it's cowardly, for one, you're on Zoom, we can't see you, and you're doing this over the phone. Come here and do that. It's inappropriate, it's rude, it's disrespectful. I do not agree with these gentlemen all the time. I'm not calling them liars. I'm not calling them snakes. I'm not calling them anything. They are my elected officials, and I treat them with the respect they deserve. And you, sir, are not doing that for an elected official in this county, and it is wrong.
So now, keep everything safe. I did today, like curse, and I said we shouldn't curse in here, okay? I get it, I'm trying to catch up with that. Let's keep good conduct in our meeting from everyone. And I'm kind of probably too lenient on everybody talking, but I'm not trying to stop anybody talking. I don't mind, but we need to come up one at a time. We need to make sure we can bring hard things to the podium. And they can be hard, and they can be, you said this, and I proved it didn't happen. That can happen, and that is, in so many words,
It can happen.
but use candor when you do it. So.
It can, I'm just saying to be respectful, and I feel like as a group, you should stand up and expect everyone to be as respectful to every member as they are to you.
Yes, everybody.
Because Ryan, I clearly see is in your corner. He's got your back, and that's fantastic. I'm glad you have that.
On this,
I have hers, and you should have said something.
on this topic, he came in a few weeks ago and spoke about this, and passion reigns in these rooms.
Did you say anything then, when he called her a liar?
I don't remember.
No, you did not.
That means, no, you
He and
didn't.
his wife both called me liar.
So when they call her a liar, all we're asking is, as you're saying, you need to come to the podium to have our talk. That's fine. We'll come to the podium.
I need to do better at that.
You need to stand up and say something. This isn't right. This isn't how we treat people. And as a Christian, as you have clearly told us you all are, we don't treat people that way anyway. And you should be standing up for that and putting that forward in the world.
We're in a public forum, and I'm trying to police the forum. So,
I understand that, but you bring it in here when it's convenient for you. So when you do that, you need to then turn around and treat her with the same Christian respect you are expecting me to treat you with. Thank you.
we'll do our best.
This is Ashley Yerkowski. I would like to make a public comment. As Judy rolls her eyes and one of her friends just got done saying about respect. If you guys would go to the video 2 weeks ago, you can see Judy calling a citizen a liar and a storyteller. And I think I have no problem with Judy. I never have. I was excited to see her take that position, for one. And from going and attending meetings and watching meetings, the display of disrespect she gives is just crazy to me. And when I was sitting in a meeting last week, her son's spouse was yelling at people, raising her voice, saying that they could not go to the podium and speak. But tonight it seems to be okay for people to go to the podium and speak.
Who did I call a liar and a storyteller?
Me.
I don't believe I used those words at all.
I'll show you on Zoom.
Well, I've watched all the meetings lately, so.
Well,
Anyway,
there needs
did we
to
get
be-
over this?
There
please?
needs to be respect in all corners of the orderly manner, meeting. The minutes in front of us, we didn't get them sent to us. We had to print them off the website. They're getting sent out. We don't have any control over them, but we keep voting on, trying to have some level of something over the minutes. Nobody wants to leave anything out of the minutes, I don't think. If you think we do, I don't. We don't want to be in anyone's views like this. Explain what I'm looking for. So anyway, what do you want to do with the minutes?
The only thing I say that is where you ask the auditor to send
We
changes.
did ask the auditor to send
No.
that.
No, you
We'll have to watch the
ask the
video.
auditor to send it to Carl, but,
And,
and to you,
yes, we did.
but the changes were supposed to come from you to Carl.
We were gonna look over them.
No, he wasn't gonna make any changes until you sent the proposed changes to him.
Yeah, I need to go back.
Do you remember that?
I remember we talked about it. I was
Yes,
confused.
yes.
So there could have been a confusion
That's
there.
fine. How about this?
And I'm fine with,
You wanna look at them another week? I don't care. Look at them another week. They're getting sent off without anything we do anyway. The auditor's in complete control of minutes right now. Complete control. She can write anything she wants now.
What? They are because they have to be sent in paper within 7 days. Yeah,
So we're,
so,
yeah.
they've taken the minutes. We have no control.
yeah, no, I'll go back and redo that, Judy. So, just be-
Yeah,
I don't
because
know.
I was, because we were supposed to do,
I was
I don't know how to
thinking,
supposed to list, send the list of copies. He doesn't know what we did.
yeah, okay, so I was
So, yeah.
thinking,
Yeah, no,
no,
Melissa doesn't have.
I'll go back and
No.
look at that, but,
So go back and review what was
Yep.
written down
and if we can come back to that next week, that would be great.
Yeah.
So. I'll
and
go-
send those to Carl, and then he'll know where to begin.
Okay.
And
What do you
he
want?
stated clearly last week that he does not intend to write a new ordinance, he just is going to amend the current.
Amend and
ordinance.
add.
Yes,
Yeah.
so I got a poison pen letter about that too.
So. What do you want to do? We didn't even get these sent to us. I had to do this on my own. So if you guys can look at them, do see what you want. We, way back in January, are trying to clean them up, take the bias down. That's all we want. If,
I think it's time to adjourn.
The thing is fine, except I do want to review what the discussion was about the ordinance,
that's fine.
because I think that's important.
Make sure you word that right. So what do you want to do? You want to go on again next week on, or?
Yeah, can we put these
That's fine.
postponed until next week?
Like I said, we did not get,
Is that okay?
The only thing you're taking out is my comments on May 30th, and I would like those in there. Because I feel like for next year, when we do budgets, it's very important on the Veterans Affairs budget that we have that information. And I also feel like it's important.
Can I
that we-
ask a question?
Yeah.
So we've had these fights with these minutes. If we look at these minutes and we read them and we go through and say, okay, so Jacob doesn't want this in the minutes, he would like that struck. You would like to have what you said in the minutes,
Yes.
which I'm fine with. So
Yes.
if there's stuff in there that you want to have and you believe
Yes.
that's important. And if there's something from the video that we feel like, hey, I said this, I want to make sure it's in the minutes. I think we should, be able to talk about that and put that in there. And
The more the better.
and then, I mean, it's just, and personal, if our personal, I guess, our personal discussions, items that we talk about and we want published, we should have control of those
yes,
at some point. So if Jacob says something and Jacob says, well, that didn't get mentioned, I want this in the minutes, I don't have a problem with that.
right.
If Judy says something and she goes, I want this in the minutes, just so we have a record of it, I don't have a problem with
I
that.
think that's great.
And I think we
That's
could
great.
meet middle
Yes.
ground,
We can.
But every week we will be, that's fine. We will be adding and adding.
but at the
and
same
adding.
time, we have to also understand that, hey, you know what, I don't feel like this needs to be in there. And we can have those discussions, and we can have them in an open forum, because we're talking about this stuff in front of everybody anyway.
Right.
And
Yeah,
so
it's all
then,
public.
right, and so, I mean, I don't have a problem with doing it that way, as long as it gets done that way, and then we can publish those minutes after we vote. That's the only thing that I would like to see happen. I know that, I think if we go back to Iowa Code again, there's a thing that says, those minutes get published to the paper right after the close of the meeting, I think is what it says.
It's a 7 days.
Something to that. or
7 days.
7 days, okay, so,
7 days.
so there is time for us to vote and then redo them and get them to the thing, so. I'm willing to make that concession just to get past this a
And-
little bit, and not a concession, but I'm just saying, let's work together, and I'm fine with trying to get. Cause ultimately, we can read these off and vote. Like we're doing now, you're doing amendments, we can read that whole thing and we can have a discussion about, hey, maybe we should take that out, or I wouldn't like to see that, instead of coming in with this already done and saying, I don't want that in there. So, and then
Or
we
saying that
talked about
it's slanted.
The board,
Well-
well,
some of it is because there's, like on June first, there's a lot of stuff that I said that's not in there.
I
Oh,
know,
and if you want it in there, that's fine.
And the one thing that I said is in there is probably the thing that makes me look the worst. You know, I'm just saying, that's from the other side, it would say, oh, aha, he's this. Well, there's a lot of other things I said that I would have
It
liked.
doesn't sound good. to
Jake.
say taking information out of minutes. But I think when I was supervisor, if any supervisor needs something put in the minutes, we didn't object to it.
Right.
The other two never objected to it, because that supervisor thought it was important. And I think that's the way
And maybe that's the way
treat
we
each
should
other.
handle it, is we should discuss.
Yeah,
Hey, cause we can sit like.
and then I don't think you'll spend with your time.
well, we're gonna revise the minutes every week, bro, and I hope it's have to.
Maybe.
But you're looking at it that way because you look at everything as slanted and that's why we went to the AG's opinion, John, because they were taking out everything, any discussion, everything was coming out. And that's why the AG's opinion, like Carl called the AG's opinion still stands, that they're the auditor's minutes, and that's why they've been done that way. Because everything was coming out of them that should have been in there.
Well,
Let's
Well, we
let's
weren't
move
taking-
on.
Taking any motions or votes out.
No, but you were taking any discussion out that is,
Partial discussion.
but it's not partial if you discussed it. It's not partial.
If it's only what you
Let's
say and
do-
not what you say, it is partial. So anyway,
So make sure.
it has to have everyone's comment.
But this is what I'm gonna say, is I'd say, you know, we take these, we read them at the end of the meeting. We'll go through them.
Yeah.
Read them out loud, I don't care. We take time to read them. We say, okay, hey, wait a minute, I said this, it's not in there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's put it in there.
Yep.
And let's work togetally to form what we want.
The reason, and that's what we used to do.
And
but-
I agree with you about the code and everything else. I totally agree, but I also, I don't know, I feel like it's.
that's why.
Do you see the public perception that you're trying to
I
hide
agree.
something?
No,
They
because
got so
I think
bad,
we're doing
Jay,
the vote, so.
so bad.
So I don't.
Well, that's,
what are we trying to
but
hide?
the
I don't
discussion,
understand.
some of the discussion. You know, it's just, but can we move on and just
Yeah,
adjourn?
it got
tonight?
so
Let's
bad
just-
in January that we had, that I called and said, you've got just to leave everything, just use what the code says, leave all the extra discussion out, and just please, if we can put it together, and I don't think you're interpreting that right, Brad. So,
See, there we go.
I don't.
Okay, I'm up there now, try that one more time.
I don't think you're interpreting that right. I've been
I
told,
read it word for
If it doesn't
word.
agree with you, you're not interpreting it right.
Just because you disagree with it.
discussion, I was told.
No, it doesn't say discussion. You were told, and you're reading the
I'm saying they
wrong
don't.
code. 21.3. Guys, look at it, read it. Sufficient information. Not once did it say, Mr. Mayor, that everything I said has to be in there. Something sufficient so that we understand your stance. That's all it takes. Not because he said, he said.
We've had a lot of he said, she said.
Yeah, so let me ask you this, just from a legal standpoint, so sufficient, do we get to dictate what sufficient is?
Why not?
As,
No, we
You
don't.
guys are,
but I'm.
no. You guys are the ones that are talking. You guys, in my,
I don't have a
in
problem
my,
with that, if we actually have.
my opinion, Todd, my opinion is, you guys have dictated this out to way too many people. There's 3 people that control the minutes. You. And if you go by the Iowa Code 21.3, it makes it so simple that by the end of the meeting, somebody can read the minutes, it's taken them. Do we agree with it or not? We vote yea or nay, and that vote is recorded, the minutes are approved. Who cares where they go from there?
I like that. Do you agree? Do you agree with what he just said? We control the minutes? Absolutely. Do you agree with what he said?
If you leave enough information in there.
If you like.
If
it,
you
then-
follow
No, if you put enough
21.3.
information in there to support the
Iowa
decision.
Code 21.3, which dictates your minutes. And if you leave sufficient information on how you
Arrived
and why
at
you
a
voted, there's nothing that says, I need to know your exact words or what you think may or the plan. It's what you feel as a supervisor to ban the information so that you vote, and I know it's an informed vote, based upon reading the minutes. I should be able to look at the minutes and say, you made that based upon sufficient, I disagree with it, but it's sufficient. That's how the.
But that's
minutes are
why
read.
he made the decision, yes.
So 21.3, I'll put it at the top.
I think you're gonna have to go back. The way the meetings used to be run, you're gonna have to have public comment right off the bat. Then the public comment, you gotta leave it out. If you leave the public comment out, the one talk during your meeting, you guys do the business, you get it done, you're gonna have good. It's gonna say how each one of you stood, everybody's gonna understand it. But when you have public comment all during your meeting, everybody's gonna be confused. That gets the creative. He said, she said. You're just helping. You guys need to conduct the meeting and do the business.
We're trying to be open, and right now you're giving us some ideas in this time of,
Right.
and I see what you're saying, but I'm trying to be,
Stuff like he said, she said.
yeah,
And
well,
you're gonna have what's pertinent and needs to be in the minute.
yeah, and I think reading them at the end of the meeting is good. I think that's excellent. That's the way a lot of boards are done. And then we can see what we want to do. Okay, it's fun deal. Well, let's just put them off a week, I guess, if we want to go back and watch the video, what happened. Video is handy, because we can tell exactly what was said. So, if that's all we're doing, then I guess we're done. And a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
There's this, all those in favor? No, are you good? Oh, okay, all right. I'm thirsty. I know.
Appreciate everything you said, but take it easy. Try to learn and try to do them. Even if you guys don't.
I'll be back.